million podcasts in the world. It's growing every day, but the last time that was like, I checked like 2 days ago, 4.4 million podcasts out there. And, but the next slide, oh, went the wrong way. Here we go. There are only 466,000 active podcasts globally. That's according to Listen Notes. That's based on their definition, podcast activity, which is 90 days. Like if they've put out a podcast in the last 90 days. If they stretch that out to a year, like who's put that out in the last year, it's around 600,000. So you can easily see that it's not as like a lot of people are like, oh, 4.4 million, that sounds saturated. That sounds huge. It's not. It's really, the market is a lot smaller than that. And when you think about even 600,000 or even 400,000, that's a small search query of podcast that people have to look through. Because if you think about Google, gosh, I keep pressing the wrong button. Oh, dang it. Okay. So if you think about Google, if you do like a Google search and get 181, you could get 181 million results, right? In that one Google search. But with a podcast, that's 603,000 that you have available. And there's a brand new thing that's come out in the last year and a half, 2 years. It's called Podcast 2.0. And Podcast 2.0 is changing a lot about podcasting. And one of the major things is search. Podcasts are now way more searchable. And it's building in, so AI has a bunch to do with this too. So you know how a podcast episode, they talk for an hour on there, or 30 minutes an hour. Well, now your transcript of that episode lives inside the episode. So people like Apple and Spotify are taking advantage of this. And now on Apple and Spotify, when you're searching for a podcast, it's searching those transcripts. It has those transcripts live. And you can add SEO, you can add all kinds of like chapter markers and things now with Podcast 2.0 to your podcast that just helps people know what your podcast is about and helps people find them a lot better. So it's quickly becoming another search engine. Do y'all remember when Google first came out, right? Google came out and it was huge. Everybody loved it. And it was the #1 search engine, right? Then YouTube came out. And as YouTube grew, what became its competitor as far as searching goes? YouTube. YouTube became its competitor. So I'm not great at predictions or anything. And then Google bought YouTube, blah, 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 all that. But I'm not good at predictions or anything, but I think podcasting is going to be that next sphere of search. As Podcast 2.0 grows, becomes more searchable, it's going to be even that kind of sphere. But as we could see, for visibility's sake, it's a smaller pool than a lot of those pools that are out there. Again, not saying you shouldn't be on those other pools. Okay, this is even more powerful than visibility. If I could say the one thing that podcast does the best, it would be this, is build trust with your audience. I think the story with my wife proves it. And I've heard many stories like that. People feel a deep, intimate connection with podcast hosts. There's been surveys and research done, and it is just amazing the type of, compared to everything else that's out there, the type of trust that people have with a podcast. Let me read you one of the statistics here. A study conducted by Acast and Nielsen found that 63% of respondents trust the podcast host to whom they're listening. 63%. An additional 80% said they trusted the host's recommendations, meaning when a host says, buy this, 80% of the people trusted them to purchase that. And that is why you see that and hear that so much on podcasts. You hear the host advertising sheets or pillowcases or whatever it is. And I'm not really going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about ads and stuff, because I'm talking about what I want to help y'all do is build your businesses. We're not here to build someone else's bed sheet business or someone else's, whatever it is, business, ad business. We're here to build y'all's businesses. And I've seen that before. I've seen entrepreneurs, we're entrepreneurs. We want to get every business opportunity we can. So I see entrepreneurs that get caught up in podcasting, and originally they did it to build their business, but then they start putting other people's ads on there. I'm like, well, why are you putting other people's ads on there? You need to be building your business and funneling those people into your business. So trust, it's amazing. And again, my wife's story, she bought ad after the first thing. Okay, so who is podcasting for? Obviously, I'm biased. It's for everyone. I'm going to say it's for everyone. But I will talk about, like, if you're like, I don't think a podcast is for me right now. I think, I don't know. Maybe that's not my thing. We're going to talk about a little bit that at the end and talk about some solutions, because I still think it's for you, but there's some other solutions that we can take advantage of. So let's think about podcasts differently. I really want y'all to think about podcasts differently. So it's not social media. It's similar. It's marketing. It is a marketing arm. It is something you're doing to get an audience, to reach out, to build trust, to gain visibility, but it's not social media. So let me show you some things that I believe podcasts are. They're a way to connect with people, right? So it's a deep way of connecting with your audience. It's how you find and build relationships. Second, it's intimate. Podcasts are intimate. So you think you're talking to a group of people, and even in here, I'm talking to like a bunch of people at the same time, right? And online, we're talking to all these different people. On a podcast, you're still talking to a group of people, but one person is listening to you at a time. So it's like having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, right? And they're doing this while they're working out. They're usually doing this alone. They're working out, they're in a car, they're vacuuming their floor, whatever it is they're doing. But it's a very one-on-one intimate relationship. And I really believe that that's a big part of the trust factor and where the trust comes in and how it builds trust so quickly. Podcasting are a lot like email newsletters. So people understand email newsletters. And if you don't know about podcasting that much, email newsletters is an easy way to explain podcasts, right? You subscribe to both. And so just like a newsletter, people are subscribing to you to hear weekly content. Like, they want you to keep coming back and pouring into them. They're interested in your topic. They're interested in what you have to say. And so they keep coming back to you. So I love newsletters. Sometimes I feel like they're often not talked about enough. And I really coach my clients to have a close relationship with their podcast and newsletter. Because if you can get both of those working, then that's very, very good. So podcasts are a lot like newsletters. You don't need a large audience. We've talked a little bit about this already. You don't need a large audience like social media to make a large impact. It really depends on what you sell, obviously. But if you can get a group of 300 people, and if you could sell 10 of your high ticket things to those people, then that's a huge impact to your business just out of that 300 people. So you don't need a large audience to make a large impact. Become the go-to voice in your niche. This is a lot of people's goal, is they want to be the go-to voice in whatever they do. They want to establish themselves as the person that you go to. So that's probably not as secret. Y'all probably already knew that one, but and then talk about something you love. So this is, getting your mind to think about differently about podcasts. A lot of people come to me and they're like, I don't know what I would talk to about on my podcast. And some people that may or may not, love the industry that they're in, they just found themselves in that industry. They're like, I don't really want to talk about my business. And I'd say, if you don't love it, don't start a podcast, because you need to love what you do to talk about a podcast. But it still can work for your business. And let me explain a brief example. So let's say you own a plumbing company or something like that, something obscure like that. But you love leadership. Like, you're a great leader. And let's use Lawn Company, because I know a guy that is making this work for himself. But he owns a lawn company, but he loves entrepreneurship and leadership. Like, he just got into it and loves entrepreneurship and leadership. So he started teaching people and talking to people about that. And it has impacted his lawn company, because who does he mow lawns for? Who does he want to mow lawns for? Businesses and companies. And so they're going to him for one thing, but then, oh yeah, you do. Oh, well, you can come, it's a networking tool, it's similar, like I talked about, it's networking. And so just talk about what you love. That's the thing there. Okay. Identifying your goals. So one of the main reasons a lot of podcasts, either they fail or people give up or they quit, is because they don't identify what their goal is. They're not clear on their message, and they don't know. They may have a goal or an idea of what they want their podcast to be, but then it just becomes about that number of downloads. I just need this many downloads to win. And a lot of times that's not the case. Like we said, like, you don't need a large group. You just need to know what your goal is. So let's go over some goals that we identify. And that's what we start with first in our coaching business. Like, we start with clarity. You've got to get clear on who you are, who you're talking to, and what your goal is. Like, what's your end goal? If your goal is just to get on there and have fun, and it's a hobby for you, great, go for it. But if your goal is to build your business, then you need to have some really how are you going to do that? How are you going to build your business? Like, through it, are you going to ask people to sign up for your newsletter? Are you going to ask people to fill out a lead magnet? What is your goal? How are you going to get them into your business? So you don't just get on a podcast and start talking and not have a goal to bring people into your business, because it's not going to work. So let's talk about some goals. Number one, set yourself up as an expert. We talked about this a little bit, but podcasts are a great place to talk about what you know. When you're an expert, people know you and come to you for help. If you think about Dr. Phil, right? Does anybody know Dr. Phil? Anybody? Okay, 1, 2 people. Dr. Phil got his start. I don't know if y'all know this, but Dr. Phil got his start on Oprah Winfrey's show. She brought him in as an expert. And so every once in a while, she would just bring him in as the expert. And that's what launched his whole career and his own show. And that's where that all came about. So being an expert in your field and showing up on podcasts is huge. And this is the one that I want to talk about, where I talked about earlier, podcasting is for everyone. If you're like, I don't know if I want to start a podcast yet. I don't know if I have it in me to do a full-time podcast. That's cool. But get on someone else's podcast. Set yourself up as an expert. Start talking about on someone else's podcast. Like I said before, though, too, don't go on there without a plan to get people to connect with you. When the host says, so how can people connect with you? You shouldn't be like, maybe they can email me, or I have a website. No, you should have a plan, a funnel. And if you need somebody who can help you with that, this guy right here, have a funnel that you're going to send people to. Give them something for free. Say, hey, I have this great free resource, and if you download, it's going to help you do everything that I've been talking about today. So set yourself up as an expert. Develop a fan base of loyal followers. Like an email list, people that listen to podcasts are way more committed. So when you have an ask, they're more likely to buy in. And then this is another quote from Forbes: the direct calls to action, often included in podcast ads, leverage the trust and loyalty listeners have for hosts, leading to higher conversion rates. And that's why it's so important to have that direct call to action as a podcaster, as a host, because conversion rates in podcasts are high. They are a lot higher than a lot of the other things out there. So email, newsletters, and podcasts, some of the highest conversion rates. because of that trust, again. To network with like-minded people and businesses. That's another good goal. So we're talking about goals. So think about these, as we're talking about these, pick out for yourselves, what's my goal? Like, think about it for yourself. You might have a couple of these, you might have one, but think about them for yourself. So to network with like-minded people and businesses, I see a lot of people do this. Like my wife, she started doing this on LinkedIn. It wasn't a podcast technically, but we're turning it into a podcast now since she did it so long. She just decided to start. She was like having these one-on-one conversations with business owners, and she like, this is so good. Like we could actually record this and help other people. And so she started to have these live calls, video calls with other entrepreneurs and just talk, just like you would in a one-on-one. And it was just this opportunity for their audience to hear somebody else. And so it was just this great networking opportunity, opened a lot of doors for her as just a networking thing. So think if you can definitely use your podcast as a network, to network with like-minded people and businesses, to make money teaching people. And so that's a lot of creators out here. You see that are full-time podcasters. That's what they're doing. They're making money teaching people, coaching people, telling other people what they know. If you're an expert, you can make money teaching people. And then you create courses that people are coming through your podcast and they're purchasing your course or community or all kinds of things, right? Okay, bonus, create more content for social media. And really this isn't a bonus, but this is a major point. I always tell people with podcasting is such a great tool. I love it. I love it because you sit down, and the tools that we have nowadays with AI, you sit down and record a 30-minute, you dump, in a casual conversation even, you're dumping all of your knowledge from your head, you're spilling that out in a 30-minute conversation, right? And that's an easy way for a lot of us to explain. Like if I was to go up to Brad and like just start explaining like what I do and who I am and how I solved this problem, that, it's easy. We're just having a conversation. So if I record that and turn it into a podcast, then I can take that 30 minutes and split it up into multiple different pieces of content, whether I'm actually like taking the recordings, the video recordings, and posting them on social media, or I'm turning the whole transcript into a blog using AI and going in there and adjusting it. So my wife's content, we take it, I just grab it for her and I turn it into a blog. Then I turn that into an email, and then she takes it and turns it into several social media posts. It's great to just repurpose instead of like racking your brain, like, what am I gonna, because social media is a monster, right? Like it wants it's like feed me. And it wants something like every single day. And so when you can take when we sit down and record at one time and take a large piece of content and break it up for all of those days, it really helps. Not to say that you still probably won't do some other, quick lives and things on social media. It doesn't replace all of that, but it definitely helps fill in those gaps. So I put it on here as a bonus, but really it's huge. It's a huge thing. Very helpful. Let's see. Where am I at on my notes here? Okay, next slide. All right. Are you ready to start connecting with your audience on a new level? Oh, sorry. That's podcasting. And again, it's okay if you don't see yourself as a podcaster right now. Get on other people's podcasts. The great thing about podcasts is a lot of them are interview podcasts. It's not the only podcast, though. You can definitely do a teaching podcast, or there's all kinds of different formats that you can do. But a lot of them do involve interviews, and these podcasters are hungry for content. And so if you just put yourself out there, hey, if anybody wants someone on their podcast, I'll do it. Just go jump on other people's podcasts as well, because that's very helpful. So let me go over a few myths that I hear. And I say myths, but what I really want to call these are excuses. These are just excuses. And we all have them, right? We all have and really, I talked to a lady on the phone today, like just before this meeting, And I was like, really, what does that boil down to? Because she was talking about this or that. She was like, well, Jonathan, honestly, it's just fear. It's just fear. I'm just afraid to open my mouth and get the message out there. And she has a very powerful message. And I'm like, no, you've got to do this, right? You've got to get your message out there. There's not a lot of people talking about what she wants to talk about. And I'm just telling her, we've got to get over. So that's why I call them excuses. Really, they're just excuses. If you've got a message inside of you, if you want to build your business, let's bust these myths. Let's get past these excuses and get started. Don't have time. That's a big one. Don't have time. But through our coaching and everything, we show you how to save time. And that's a lot of times people get into it. They don't know. Podcasting does take time. It takes time to record. It takes time to edit. It takes time to post it. All of those things that we can help you out with all those things. But above all, I was a project manager for most of my career. As a producer, I was also a project manager. So Eric and I, when we started this business, we take all of our knowledge, and because we know how to, like I said, we ran a whole network. We know how to make it, just the two of us, we ran a whole network. So we know how to streamline things to save you time. That's what I'm trying to say. And there's systems and there's software that you can put in place that'll save you time. Systems that help you not be like, oh, great, what am I going to talk about this week? I don't know what to talk about this week. Oh, and I've got to get it out by tomorrow. And so we have systems that'll save you time. And so that's not an excuse. We're taking that one off the table. Equipment, technology, this isn't an excuse. I hear this all the time, like, oh, I need to get the right podcast equipment. And I'm going to give you, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to give you a guide for podcast equipment. And it's a great guide, and you can go on there and look on it and everything. But I'm telling you, just get a cheap, there's a cheap, $69 mic. You don't need a lot of big fancy equipment. Get a good mic, and it's $69. It's the one we use. It works great. It has USB cable, plugs in. We've got iPhones nowadays and computer laptops with great cameras on them. Use those. Start with what you have. Get in front of, I'm going to give you a tip here. We got lots of windows, if y'all can't see them on the screen here, but we got lots of windows here. Put your laptop right here. Put your mic right here. Use that window as your light. That's a great light source. You don't got a light. So what I'm trying to tell you is equipment's not an excuse. We've got lots of great tools nowadays. Even AirPods have a pretty decent mic in them. We've done a lot, even in the professional world, we did a lot of interviews where the interviewee was wearing AirPods. They didn't have a special mic or anything. And it's decent. I would encourage you to get a podcast mic if you're going to do it full time. And again, you can get one for $69. So that shouldn't be a huge barrier. But even, if you got AirPods and that's where you start, it'll work. So don't let equipment be an excuse. No idea where to start. That's legitimate. That's legitimate. But where you start is what your passion is. And so if you get clear on that passion, and I'm going to give you a clarity worksheet as well. This is the podcast clarity worksheet. You can use that to get really clear on who you are and what you want to talk about and what audience you want to talk to. And we had a network, we had a whole network of podcasts. We saw some podcasts shoot up and then kind of level off. We saw some podcasts really struggle. But the one that did the best, that just shot up, we were like, what is the big difference between that one and all of these other ones? And it boiled down to the clarity. They understood their audience. They knew who they were talking to. They had a really great concept because they had worked on it. And this network, they all talked about the same thing. It wasn't like one of them talked about something different than the other. It was just the way they framed it. And they knew who their audience was, and they knew how to talk to them, and they knew exactly who they were. And they didn't stray from that. They just always were that. And so that is what having a good concept looks like. And that's one of the number one things we start with in our coaching program is getting clear on your concept. And I have a and I'm going to give you the worksheet that we use with our clients in that. So if you're ready to start, it's time to start. It's time to get going. And we're going to do a 3-day podcast Kickstart challenge for those of you that are ready to get going. And this is if you have a podcast or you don't have, or you want to start a podcast, it doesn't matter. You can take this challenge and it will work wherever you're at. So we got a podcast launch checklist. It's just a quick checklist of knowing like what you need to launch a podcast. Like I said, the equipment guide. It's got a lot of great equipment on there, and we put it in like good, better, best. Like I want good equipment, I want better equipment, or I want the best. Just give me the best. Don't let buying the best equipment, though. Again, don't let that stop you from starting. Podcast Clarity Worksheet. That's the Podcast Clarity Worksheet. The one you see in this picture, we've actually simplified it, and it's all in one page. This was like a book that we used to go through with our client, and we're like, we can simplify this and make this easier. So we actually simplified that into a one-page clarity worksheet and a 30-minute strategy call. Now, in the 30-minute strategy call, that's with me or Eric. It's with me. And I will walk you through any questions that you might have about your current podcast or podcast you want to get started. I'll walk you through any questions that you have and help you kind of get, launched and formulate that idea into a reality. And we'll talk about your pain points. Not everybody's, whatever your pain point is, like we'd love to talk about it, whether it is equipment or whether it is, I don't really know what I want to talk about. Let me throw these ideas at you. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or maybe it's about launching. When's the best time to launch? Or maybe it's just about, I don't know how I could make this build my business or sell my business. So I would love to talk with any of those. So scan the QR code. And I hope that you guys get how a podcast can help you. And I hope that you are all ready to get started. You know what? We need to drop the link in great. Man, you're awesome. Of course. So that's it. Questions? Do we want to open up for questions?
Yeah, let's turn this on.
Do you have any questions?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I love it. I'm curious, how many of you guys in here actually have your own podcast? 1, 2, or have ever published podcasts? So 2. How many of you guys have actually, that don't have one, that didn't raise your hand, have actually thought about doing a podcast before? Okay, so I think we got everybody at some level.
Yeah.
I know this is very valuable to me because like I told you, I used to do a podcast in my Jeep. Like I would drop my son off at school, I would record the whole episode in my Jeep and then publish it before I get home. And I've even done one on a ski lift. I tried to record the whole thing on a ski lift on the way to the top of the mountain just to try.
That's great.
But I think this is super enlightening because we hear about, social media, we hear about SEO, we hear about all the noise and channels. But one thing that I think is super interesting too, that I found is folks that have that listen to podcasts are usually higher income earners, and they're a little bit higher just on the overall intelligence scale.
Okay.
So if you're looking, if your audience is people, if you're trying to get in front of people that are higher income earners and that are intelligent, that's a really good platform to be on because they're the people that are usually like doing hard things, up early, taking care of stuff, and they care about their own personal development.
That's true.
Choosing to listen to things.
Yes.
And so, that's probably like the story about your wife that I love. There's that trust built, and then there's the decision made all from one podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear questions from you guys, and let's give some snaps for Jonathan. Thanks for being here, teaching us some cool stuff.
Thank y'all.
What questions do you guys have for Jonathan? You got the podcast expert right here, and my computer's about to die, so I'm trying to plug it in.
Okay.
A microphone for anyone that has a question.
I got a question. So you mentioned the USB microphone, and I have tried to have multiple USB microphones, and most programs don't really handle that very well. Is that just for like a single voice podcast?
It is. Okay. It is. Great question. So I usually coach people to, especially when they're starting out, use programs like Zoom and Riverside to interview guests. Then you can start out with very little equipment. And you can use just your computer and they can use their computer wherever they're at. instead of trying to get them to come and y'all both be in the same place, which is fine. And if you want to do that, that's great. It's just going to be more expensive. It's going to be more time consuming, syncing up schedules and all of that. So yeah, if you're going to do 2 mics, I would recommend some kind of audio, USB audio device that can bring 2 mics in and then bring it into your computer.
And that would be on XLR, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you're fine. Any other questions? Questions? You don't have any questions as a podcaster? What's your pain point?
So for me, it was, I ran out of time. I'm a mom of 4, and so it was a hobby for me. And so I haven't actually done an episode in quite a while. I've been wanting to do it again.
Yeah.
But it is, for me, it's just me speaking to it and then going back and editing it and doing all of the things. It does take time. And
yes,
so
it does.
When I have a little bit of spare time, I'll get back into it. But right now, it was kind of one of those things of moms, schools.
Yes.
All the things.
all the things. Yeah. And time is, like I said, that's one of those big, barriers that we have to pass. And that's why we try to help people understand how to maximize their time, right? With that podcast. Do you do social media stuff?
I
For the business.
Promote the podcast. It was just
okay.
for me. But I
Gotcha.
had it like on my Facebook, and so
yeah.
I think my highest stream, I got about 75 streams on my highest podcast.
Oh, cool. That's great. That's awesome. Very good.
Do you want to share a little bit about monetizing podcasts? Like, what's the difference between like host-read ad versus rejected ad? How people can actually make money from podcasting?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could talk a little bit about that. Okay, so I've done it all. Done all of the different kinds of ads. There's tons of different ways you can monetize a podcast. I preach mostly. I'll talk about all of them, but I'm going to tell you what I preach. I preach mostly that your ads should be about your business. So that you should be funneling people to your business. People are already trusting you. And so if you're telling them, hey, I'm also doing this thing over here, if you want to dive deeper into this topic, then they're going to go for that because eventually they're going to go for that. They might not grab it the first time, but eventually they're going to go for that because they have built that trust with you and they want that. So even if you're a full-time creator, you should still like your ads, your own ads to like a course or something like that should be more important to you than the other ads. Now, however, there are a ton of ads out, a ton of ways to monetize your podcast and make money off of it if that is just what you want to do. And so there's host-read ads. Those are going to be the highest paid. And usually you don't start getting those type of ads until you hit about 5,000 to 10,000 per episode download rate. Now, as a business owner, you can go out and hit the streets and talk to people and get ads from, people that you know, and that's totally fine. And you can do host-read ads that way. But typically it's 5,000 to 10,000 is when you would start that. But those are the big ads they'll put in there. You can do pre, mid, post, all of that thing. Then there's what we call server-side ads. That is, Spotify does a lot of this. So if you're on Spotify's hosting platform or other hosting platforms like that, they have what they call server-side ads. And that is basically like YouTube. When you're watching YouTube and it just stops and you start watching an ad, that's what they'll do. They'll just bring in ads straight into your podcast. Now, the difference in those is you can tell them exactly where you want those to come in instead of just like YouTube where they just throw them in. Well, you can do that on YouTube too. You can kind of control that a little bit on YouTube too. But yeah, those are easy. You don't have to do any work. You just plug it in and they say, okay, we're going to start putting ads on your podcast. But they're very low return. So 50-50 is usually the split on those, or sometimes even worse than 50-50. And they're going to be bought at a very lower cost by the company. And so it really, again, doesn't make a lot of money on those ads until you get into the higher download numbers. And like I said, like you can definitely put those on your podcast. I encourage people, if they're just starting out, please just sell what you have or don't sell anything at all. And that is because you want to get those numbers higher, those download numbers higher. And if you're not selling anything at all, you should at least be telling people to subscribe to your newsletter. So you're building your newsletter and the podcast at the same time. Because people are gonna more want to listen to your podcast if it doesn't have a bunch of ads on it. And if your podcast isn't popular and it's got a bunch of ads on it, people aren't gonna want to listen to it. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Anybody else have any podcast questions?
Tell us more about the challenge.
More about the challenge? What do you want to know?
How much?
This is free. This is free. 3-day podcast Kickstart challenge. That's free. Just sign up, click on there. I'm going to give you all of this in a 30-minute strategy call. The price is just having a strategy call with me.
30 minutes and never get back.
It's good 30 minutes though. I promise you. I am a great listener. I will just sit there and listen to you, and we'll work on your strategy, and I'll answer any questions you want me to answer, and you'll get a lot out of that 30 minutes. I promise.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you again to Jonathan for being here. I think, having experts, like you talked about experts on the show, this is having experts on a business
Here we go.
accelerator mastermind. So I want to bring like great value to you guys and online to help all of us grow together. And I really do think podcasts are an exceptional way to grow long-term. I think we think like short-term strategies and long-term strategies. Mm-hmm. And I mean, do you guys all listen to podcasts in here? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Well, I would just say, again, there's so much opportunity. And I think the more you define your niche and who that audience is, but this is the expert. Yeah. And you guys should take advantage. Like I already use this to book my own time, even though we're working together.
Let's do it.
So me and Jonathan are working together. He's going to help me with my podcast. And I am so excited. Sweet. And we're both in the same office together too. So you can come hang out with both of us. Maybe we can do like a mastermind workshop.
This is a great space, isn't it?
We
love this place.
It is beautiful. But thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Guys,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, guys on YouTube. I'm sorry, the first part of this, I hit stream, and for some reason the video and audio wasn't working, but you caught the meat of it. But I am planning on having Jonathan on my podcast. Woohoo! Because I'm smart like that. So you can catch some of this too on the show. It's called Believe in the Leap is the new name for it. So join Believe in the Leap. And
excited. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, Jonathan.
It's gonna be fun.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you guys online.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good.
I don't have a podcast personally, but I've been on a few.
Yeah.
Hope to be on a few more. Then I have lots of friends that have them, Brad being one of them. So anything I can learn to
Sweet.
help my buddies have too. Further than
Great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. What does everybody do? What do you do?
I'm a sports